There are various laws and acts that are available for the safety of women, including in the workplace. Yet sometimes due to lack of awareness, these protections are underutilized. And a major concern among these is sexual harassment at the workplace. It is crucial to discuss and raise awareness about these issues. So today on Beyond Her Story on Wonder Woman Wednesday, we will discuss these topics with Yamuna Chengappa. As the founder of YGC Legal and a seasoned POSH consultant, Yamuna's 2-decade-long career is distinguished by her commitment to gender equality and her expertise in addressing complex legal challenges related to workplace safety. Let us start this conversation and gain invaluable insights from her vast experience. Welcome, Yamuna, to Beyond Her Story. It's a pleasure to have you here. And let's talk about a lot of things which women would want to know.
Thank you, Sneha. Thank you for having me over.
Yeah. Women have a lot of things to handle at workplace, at home, family, responsibilities. And one such thing everyone knows about is POSH.
Right.
But I think it's just at the surface level and we need to know a bit more. So maybe we can start with a basic question as what is POSH?
Okay. Basic, POSH is an acronym for Prevention of Sexual Harassment. But we have a law passed which the Government of India passed in the year 2013.
Okay.
It's called Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace Prevention, Prohibition, Redressal Act.
Okay.
Now this act is made only for women. Does not mean that men don't face sexual harassment, right?
Okay.
But there's a reason why this act was made for women, which we will look at as we go along. Now, there's a definition of sexual harassment in this act, which clearly calls out what sexual harassment is.
Okay.
Now, most of us feel sexual harassment is if somebody comes in, touches us without our consent.
Correct.
I don't know if that is what you have also thought of.
Initially, yes, but I do a lot of study and I go through a lot of things. So maybe a bit more is what I know. But yeah, if you can tell us everything that comes under this, then it will be helpful.
Okay. So I will not be able to list out everything because there's so many things that could fall in the ambit of POSH. What we look at is let's look at the definition and then split it into simpler points.
Okay.
So the definition of POSH is any unwelcome act of behavior which is related to the workplace and is sexual in nature.
Okay.
So 3 points that we need to keep in mind. Any unwelcome act, something that we did not consent to, did not like. Related to the workplace, it can't be a random thing that happened because I was walking, in some shopping mall and some random person came and, misbehaved with me. That does not come under this act.
Yeah.
It is anything to do with the workplace. And most importantly, there must be some kind of sexual overtone to it.
Okay.
There must be something suggestive to it. Otherwise, I may not like my colleague for some reason. So it's unwelcome, it's related to the workplace, but it's not sexual harassment.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
And lots of things fall into this ambit, from something as simple as staring, to talking inappropriately, cracking inappropriate jokes, following somebody, which is stalking actually. IPC.
That's to a higher level.
Yeah, that's a much higher level. And then of course you have all the way to touching someone without their consent. Rape, molestation is a much more graver issue.
Okay. So Yamuna, I think during our conversation about POSH, you mentioned that it is for women.
Yes.
So is this act specifically for women and why so?
Alright. We have to look a little bit into the history of the act. The genesis of the POSH Act is a case that happened in Rajasthan. It's a case to do with a lady called Bhangri Devi.
Okay.
So she was a Chhatin working for the government of Rajasthan, and part of her job was to stop child marriages from occurring, other than other things that she had to do.
Yeah.
And she managed to do that successfully. As retaliation, she was raped by 5 upper caste men.
Okay.
And it was dismissed in the lower court based on certain biased outlook of the court, went to the High Court, and meanwhile a group of women and NGOs came together, filed a PIL with the Supreme Court saying that we need to have some kind of protection for women at the workplace, right? And from there came the Vishaka guidelines, and from the Vishaka guidelines we got the POSH Act in the year 2013. It's a long journey, a good 2 decades at least.
Yeah.
Now, why is it not for men? Because we are still in a patriarchal society.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at So this is a drill I do with a lot of employee sessions. I asked them to raise their hand if their grandmother had gone out to work in an office. Barely few people raise their hand. Then mothers, more people raise their hand, and then wives, daughters, sisters, a lot of them, right?
True.
So you see that more women are going out to work, which means there's a need for such a law, and hence this law. There are of course a lot of other nuances, but this is on the top first level. This is why. But it does not mean that we say that okay, if a man faces sexual harassment, he's just left to the lurch. Like, sorry, we don't have a law. It's not like that. The government has allowed companies to have policies which are gender neutral.
Okay.
So the policy can apply to any person, irrespective of gender, man, woman, third gender, whatever your gender is. So you still have a policy where if you face sexual harassment at that workplace, you can go ahead and file a complaint.
Okay. And like when you say sexual harassment, what does it comprise of? Like if somebody asks for a date, can that be called sexual harassment?
We get this a lot of times. So they're like, oh, Ashtena, so we don't go on dates anymore. And then we also have, especially guys will say, Ashtena, we will go like this, we'll walk like this. Good morning, madam. Aatara matad dekha. So we're not asking people to stop your normal course of interaction with the opposite sex or the same sex, depending on what you like. We're just saying be aware of boundaries, right? So if I ask somebody on a date, there are two ways of doing it. One is in a very obscene manner and one is in a very respectful manner. Obscene manner will be like, ba gaadi hatto hogana, let's spend a night or something like that. And respectful would be something on the lines of, hey, I'm really interested in you, would you like to come out with me for a cup of tea or coffee? That is all you have to do. You can call people out on dates. The only difference here I would say is, say I call you out for a date, you said no, and then I come back and again trouble you over and over again. That becomes sexual harassment. Because now you're creating a hostile work environment for that person. That is it.
Okay. Because like you rightly said, when people hear about this, there are a lot of things which come. Can I do this? Can I not do this? Like you said, should I, not even say good morning or whatever. So I think it's very important that people know about what it is and like you said, boundaries, those are really important.
That is very important, especially in a professional setup, right? It is more important. See, if a random person comes to you and says, come home tonight and whatever, something inappropriate, you can say no, you can walk away, and the possibility of you meeting that person is so limited, correct? It's a 50-50 chance. But at the same thing, at the workplace when you do that, you're meeting that person again. Like the whole day you're sitting with that person, the impact is so much more. Which is why we need to be very mindful. So I just want to share an incident. This happened in Chennai. I had been there for an employee awareness session. And after the session, this guy came up to me and he said, can I ask you some questions? And I said, yeah, sure. And he said, so what I just said now, I think I may have actually stepped on a few people's toes and maybe I have misbehaved with a few of my colleagues. So I got a little worried. I said, what did you do? He said, no, see, I'm from Delhi and these guys are from Chennai, which is a little more orthodox. Now, I've come from a different setup where, I kind of joke, crack certain jokes and pull people's legs. But now, after listening to a session, I think it is sexual harassment. So what do I do now? So I said, first of all, send up a prayer to God that nobody goes and files a complaint. But most importantly, I said, why don't you go and actually tell them that, hey, after today's session, I've realized that maybe I have stepped on some of your toes. I'm really sorry. And I'll try my best not to repeat this kind of incident hereafter. And luckily, no cases came from that particular organization. So we're assuming that
it went well. That's really good to know. Like you said, I think awareness is the key. I mean, if people start getting aware, then they will, they'll at least not do the things which they think are okay to do.
Exactly. Yeah, you've nailed it, Sneha. It comes down to awareness. We've had complaints where neither the complainant nor the respondent were aware that this is sexual harassment. So we've had complainants who come to us, said something, and while stating some particular incident which they didn't like, they're also stating some things which are also sexual harassment, but they don't know it is sexual harassment. And then when we ask them, do you want to put all of this under your complaint because this is also sexual harassment, they actually, oh, is this also sexual harassment? So it is quite sad that the employers have not done that. That's their job actually, to educate their employees.
I think the only thing that is currently there is every year you need to take those trainings and be aware of it, right? So does that clearly also talk about the different things that comes under the POSH?
So the Act itself calls out certain duties for the employer, and this falls under the duty of the employer,
Okay.
which is every employee must undergo either a refresher, or if they are first time in the company, then full employee awareness session.
Okay.
Including, the IC members have to go through 4 periodical sessions in a year in Bangalore,
Okay.
in Karnataka. But otherwise, the Act says periodical capacity building. So in Karnataka, the Karnataka State Commission for Women said, when they say periodical, we are expecting at least 4.
Okay.
So it differs from state to state, but they must undergo some kind of training, at least one for sure.
Okay. So you're saying that all employees must undergo training,
Yes.
plus the people in the committee also should undergo the training.
Yes, they undergo different kind of training, so that when they get these kind of cases, they don't ask the wrong questions. They don't treat them badly.
Yeah, of course. And they should also be aware of it completely before they actually take a decision.
Yeah, we can't have. We've actually, we've had one place where the presiding officer said something like, "Look at the clothes she wears. No doubt she's facing sexual harassment." So that needs to change.
Correct. Yeah. So Yamuna, I think this all made sense when we were working from office and we were going regularly to the workplace. So work from home is what do you say? Every company normally has work from home, though maybe some companies have started 3 days a week and like that. But there are a lot of companies where
Just
people work from home. So how does this law apply to work from home?
Yeah. Even we were in that quandary when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And we actually thought that now what, POSH?
Yeah.
Right? Let's close shop and sit.
Yeah.
But then we were busy even during those 2 years. Really busy.
Mm-hmm.
We had cases which got us working till 11:30 in the night.
Oh, it increased, is it?
It didn't increase, but it continued. But because of working from home and the availability of people across timelines, we used to sit till late. But we didn't expect that.
Okay.
Yes, cases were also there.
Okay.
It didn't decrease.
Yeah.
It may have not increased dramatically, but it definitely didn't decrease dramatically.
Which should have been the case.
Which should have been the case, right?
Yeah.
We were like, nobody's meeting. What can you possibly do? But you can do lots.
Yeah.
I'll give you a few examples what can happen over work from home. What I saw a lot was people have put on their cameras, like we have put on our cameras today, and they forget they're on camera. And they end up doing something which is inappropriate. So I had one incident where 2 employees, they were supposed to attend the awareness session, online awareness session, and 2 employees had met up. And most probably they were in a relationship, so they were sitting on the same chair and getting cozy.
Okay.
And they had no idea that
the online.
Yes.
On
They
camera.
were on camera with their voice on mute.
Oh.
So they couldn't hear us, and all the employees are like, "We can see you, guys, we can see you. Your camera is on." And it went on for 5 minutes.
Okay.
So it was like a picture that we all saw,
Yeah.
which is very inappropriate.
Yeah.
Now if any one of those employees had complained against them, it is a valid complaint.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So sexual harassment is not only if you target the person and commit certain acts.
Yeah.
It could also be sexual harassment if it was not intended for that person, but nevertheless that person faced it.
Yeah.
So if I'm telling you a dirty joke in office or on a Teams call, and there are 2-3 more people, they can hear us, right? Though they're not the intended recipient, they can still file a complaint.
Okay. And it is valid.
It is valid because we are creating a hostile work environment for
Correct.
it, which is again comes back to us being really conscious of how we behave, especially when we are with colleagues.
Okay.
Right? So work from home is part of the Act because the Act has kept the definition of workplace very wide.
Okay.
So workplace generally we think is the premises, maybe the transport facilities that they give, the cafeteria.
Correct.
Suppose you go to a client location, suppose you go to an offshore job, all of that is work, right? Also team building activities and resorts, all of that is your workplace. Plus work from home, work from anywhere else. So my internet is not working at home, I may go to a coffee shop, and you may also come there, you're my colleague, you'll say, you know what, I'll also join you. That becomes a workplace, right? So it's really broad. The law has purposely kept it broad to bring in all these issues into the...
So it's very well thought of too.
Very well thought of, yes.
So nowadays a lot of companies also have, like you said, teams.
Correct.
Do they also count emails, messages that you get if they are inappropriate? That also forms a part of all this, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. that all of that. So there are 4 types of sexual harassment. I might as well cover that since we're talking about this. You have verbal, which is anything you can say, right from using words like sexy, hot, darling, those kind of words, or cracking inappropriate jokes. Anything you can hear or anything you can say, right? Then you have physical, which is touching, pinching, patting, rape, molestation, those kind of things. Then you have visual, anything you can see. Staring, that's a non-verbal form. Sending emails, SMS, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat.
It covers all
of that.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Right? I'll ask you a question.
Please.
And you can answer it, and then maybe that will give you an idea why. So, like I said earlier, say we're colleagues and I say something really inappropriate to you over Instagram. I say you're looking so sexy, why don't you wear this dress? So say you're wearing a swimsuit or something, and I say why don't you wear it to office or something like that, something nasty, maybe something tastefully nasty. How will you feel about it?
I'll not feel good at all.
Now, if you look at it very, very narrowly, and you say this is not related to workplace, because you both have been talking on Instagram, how is this related to workplace? Then think about the next day or the day after when we meet in office.
It'll be very awkward.
Exactly. Right? So, though technically the incident has occurred outside, where is it impacting you?
Workplace.
So we bring it under the purview of sexual harassment at the workplace. That's how it works. Right?
So this is the third one.
So this is the third one. The last one is psychological sexual harassment, which pretty much is there in all the sexual harassment complaints. But usually seen where they, like, especially in love cases, where they constantly go after them, stalking them, talking to them, telling them. We've had one complaint. Now it's funny, but at that point the complainant was really afraid. He would send her 20 to 30 emails every day. He's sitting right there in the same office. One sala nakpudu, one sala Hindi nodudu. So basically, I'm translating it to English for the non-Kannada speaking people. Smile at me once, talk to me once, look at me once, tell me I love you once at least. And she had been ignoring him till the point he said that he will jump off a bridge if she does not accept his overtures. So she got really scared that if he does, then she'll go to jail, right? Because he'll leave a note and then the police will catch her. And out of fear, she filed a complaint of sexual harassment. This had been going on for 1.5 months. He'd even land up, so he'd call her friends, land up in front of her friend's house because he got to know that she's visiting somebody. So he had made her life miserable. So that is psychological sexual harassment. One example.
So Yamuna, in this discussion, we have spoken a lot about workplace, definition of workplace, and like you said, it's very well covered, and I think that's really well thought of. But is it limited to workplace, or does it even cover colleges, schools, and other places?
Okay, so when we say workplace, is not just your corporate offices. Workplace is any kind of organization which has 10 or more employees. They need to adhere to this law. So you could have a tailor having 20 people working for him, he'll need to have this in place. There's more than 10 people working for him.
So that's the criteria.
That's the criteria. Right? So any kind of organization, whether it's private or public, needs to implement this law. So that's how it is.
So schools, colleges,
So schools, colleges also come under that.
But is it only the teachers,
No.
the employees, or the students also come?
So everybody comes under it. But for schools and colleges, for educational institutes, the students will also be, if they are below 18 years, then POSH applies. Right? If they are above 18, then POSH applies. POSH will apply also to minors, but if it is any kind of act that has happened against a child, then POXO will play a better.
What is POXO?
So POXO is an act made for children. It is protection of children from sexual offences. So you have UGC guidelines, you have POXO, and then you have the POSH Act. These are the 3 regulations that will be applicable for schools and educational institutes. In workplaces, it is a POSH Act only that comes into picture.
Yeah, it's so good to know because you just know one aspect of it, but having an awareness about other things also makes it more. Like I always tell, in any topic, awareness is the key, and I think especially these kind of things, it is.
I agree.
So Yamuna, how many years have you been in this, and how many years have you been a part of the POSH thing, where you've been part of committees, and I know you do a lot of, you speak to, you have the sessions where you
yes.
do. So how many years has it been?
I think it's been 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
The Act came in 2013.
Yeah.
I started actively looking out for some kind of work in this sphere, I think a year or year and a half after that, because my clients started asking, and from the book, you can only do that much.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Around 8 years.
Yeah, around 8 years.
So in all these years, have you felt that this has made an impact? The POSH Act?
Absolutely. See, a lot of people think that if you have a lot of cases, that means something is going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, we look at it differently. If you have a lot of cases coming out of any kind of organization, one, it shows that the complainants are feeling safe enough and confident in the process that the company has.
Correct.
Because of which they're coming out and filing a complaint.
Very true.
If they're not coming out, that means they're not feeling safe.
Yeah.
Then that company really needs to buck up and do something.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a place to feel proud if you do not have cases. Something is wrong, because there is no chance that a company of say 300, 400, 500 plus employees don't have a case. So something is off.
Yeah.
Or they are handling it at the HR level and thing. But does it make a difference? Absolutely. Has this law made a difference? It's made a huge difference, because one, like I said, every year the cases have been rising.
Yeah.
It's giving a voice to women to actually say things that generally, if you look at the Me Too,
yeah,
they came after 20 years, 15 years, because they didn't have a voice. But now you have a platform where you can actually say that and ensure that you feel safe at the workplace.
Yeah.
I think because of the way the Act is built, and because of the awareness sessions that are happening, a lot of things which you take for granted, like it's just, boys will be boys, locker room talks, those kind of prevalent misnomers are getting eradicated, right? I think that is really huge.
Yeah.
As a society itself, I think we will change the way we look at things, and if it comes from a grassroots level, then it'll make a huge impact on all of us.
Yeah.
So the Act in India is quite unique, because this internal committee concept is not there in any other country.
Okay.
It is only in
India? Oh,
yes.
wow.
And this committee is so useful, because most of the women are not okay to go to court and to the police with cases like this.
Correct.
But the way this committee is made, it is quite unbiased, because you have an external member, you have a very senior person who is a presiding officer. So because of checks in place, this committee, I think, is a very good concept that was brought in, at least for the POSH Act in India.
Yeah, so it brings a lot of value, like you rightly said, right? And I think all these sessions are very important, because everybody knows, like even when I was working, I knew about POSH, we used to have the yearly trainings and all that. But there are certain things we are still not aware of, and there is still a bit of hesitation when, people will think, why unnecessarily do this and all that. But I think it is really important that, women also step up and complain and,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So good to know, Yamuna. But what is it that motivated you to get into this?
What is it? I think I've always been someone who has wanted to maybe be a voice for women.
Okay.
This is a story which I think started when I was like 6 years old, maybe. I got to know many years later that when I was 6 years old, I grew up in 2 families. So there were 3 boys and 1 girl, that's me.
Yeah.
So I had 3 brothers, 1 older, 2 younger. And the 2 boys were sent, the youngest is really young, so the 2 boys were sent to a shop. But I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, I am second in line, so why is the third one being sent to the first one? And they said, no, it's okay, you sit here, let them go. And it seems I went on a rant. I refused to walk into the house. I stood near the gate till these guys returned. And throughout, it was like I was doing morcha.
Okay.
2 buildings could hear me screaming that just because I'm a girl, you're not sending me out. So
it started right then.
My genesis, I think, was there. I was quite surprised that I had done it when I was 6 years old. But I think forever I've had that certain mindset. Also maybe because my mother was a working mother, so she's always instilled a certain thing of the value of women should stand on their feet. Women should, be economically independent. That has come from very young. She's like, whatever you do, that is a must.
Yeah.
And I think that does give a different kind of independence to women.
Yeah.
So I guess that is my genesis. But I've always wanted to.
But anything specific that led you into the POSH part of it?
I think because my clients started asking me how to implement it.
Yeah, and it's something that's close to your heart.
So it is a nice blend of law and women's rights.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, being part of inquiries, I love talking. So being a part of awareness sessions. So it kind of is a good medley. I mean, it's the right mix of all things that I love.
Yeah.
So here I am.
It's really been a wonderful conversation, Yamuna. I mean, like I always say, we know, like at the surface level, a lot of us know about a lot of things, okay? But in depth, when you actually understand, it makes a lot of difference. Not just to stand up for yourself, maybe for somebody else too.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think it's been a wonderful conversation, and we need to have more such conversations where it's not just women, even the men watching it are aware and they know exactly what they need to do or what they need to not do. Yeah.
See, just want to add something.
Yeah.
We look at men, I mean, it's a very unidimensional way of saying you should do this, you should not do this.
Correct.
But also beyond that, for the men, it is also that they have women in their family, right?
Correct.
So if one person, it's like if you educate the lady of the house, she educates the rest of the house. So like that, if you educate this one man, he can actually go back and educate the other people in case they don't have any knowledge about this.
Correct.
It has actually happened that after a session, this guy came up to me and said, you know what, my wife, when she got pregnant in the previous office, her manager sexually harassed her so that she had to quit. And we didn't know about this law.
Yeah.
Today I know about it. I know it's come a little late into our life, but I know going forward, it shouldn't happen. So I'm waiting to go back home today and tell my wife, this is the law, this is the act.
Correct.
I think that is validation enough.
Correct. And like you rightly said, going back and talking to the family and also the future generations, right? If you just tell them that these are the things that are in place right now,
absolutely,
it is going to make a lot of difference.
Yes. Open conversations at home. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Very true. So thank you, Yamuna. It's been like wonderful session and a lot of takeaways.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling me on your set. Thank you.
Thanks.